Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Armchair Book and Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host. My name is Stunning Steve Barber. And joining me, I'm very, very fortunate to have two guest co-hosts because Delicious Dwaylen, unfortunately, is still on hiatus. And so, but he said, you know what? We have a lot of friends who are always going to be willing to help us out. And I'm so fortunate to have not one, but two friends this week. And that is, I'll just call them Jam and Justin from the TNC SportsTalk podcast and Rescue Randy, the man who was really indirectly responsible for Justin even being on here because about 7 years ago, Randy took me to my very first Northern Wrestling Federation event in Fairfield. So,
Glad to have done it.
yep. And since then, I've, of course, obviously, become in pretty good with NWF because Randy is good friends with, I'd say, most of the roster. If you know them, you're friends with them. The newer ones you may not know, so that's the only reason you're not friends with them because, well, they don't
We'll
know
say
you
maybe
yet.
not as many as the new ones.
Yeah, maybe not as many, but I mean, we tend to become friends with them. So it was actually through the NWF that it was actually through an NWF wrestler who recommended Justin talk to me, and that would be Juice, who, by the way, Juice just moved to
Yeah.
Texas. He just moved to Texas, so I don't know if y'all knew that or not. He's not even part of the NWF
I
now.
thought I'd seen a post about that,
Yeah, I don't know
but I wouldn't.
why. I haven't asked him, but I don't know why he moved to Texas. I'm going to guess it's probably job related, but
Yeah.
he's in Texas now. But Juice was the one who told Justin to reach out to me, and he
Yeah.
did. All of a sudden, I'm getting this weird IM on through Facebook. I'm like, who is this? So I was like, all right. So obviously, since then, Justin and I become friends, just like Randy and I become friends. But like I said, Randy is the one kind of indirectly responsible for all this happening. So if anything goes wrong, blame him.
I'm a good person to blame.
I mean, that sounds fair. So
But Randy may be starting something, NWF wrestling podcast, we may be starting a trend here.
I think it's always a good time to share something that you love, especially a creative endeavor like that, and to take
yes.
something you're passionate about and to find other people who are also passionate about that kind of thing and kind of, mutually get excited about the same thing and enjoy something together.
And
Recently in the podcast world, wrestling podcast is becoming more and more popular. I remember growing up in school, going out to wrestling events. I wanted to talk about with my friends, and I knew a lot of my friends were wrestling fans, but you just never caught them ever talking about it out in public for some reason. Like they were ashamed of talking about it. And I feel like there's a lot of fans out there that are wrestling fans, and it because you see it at the arenas, you see it on social media, but then when you try to go find them out there on the streets, they're like, where are they? You know?
there's
So
there's a lot of closet fans out there. There really
yeah.
are.
Certainly. And it's such an odd collection of people when you go to a show and you see the varying types of folks there. You see them from every kind of background, and they're not just there because they're with their kids or something. You see a guy with like a tie on, and he's going just
Yeah.
as nuts for the whoever he's a fan of as the kid he brought with him. And then you see people of just about every walk of life in between, and it's so awesome to just kind of to see something that kind of celebrates something that we can all mutually agree on as
Yeah.
being
Like for a
good and
moment,
something we love.
no one cares for a moment.
Right. We're
And
not focused on anything outside of the building, what we do outside of it, what we are to each other. None of it. It's all there to like love something together and have a great time.
and Randy was actually the co-host when Dwaylen had his Florida vacation last year,
Mhm.
and I had both Randy and Justin standing at different times, to be the guest co-host. Randy was the co-host for the infamous episode with Noah Gabriel when Noah decided he was going to hock up a loogie on the armchair booking T-shirt.
There were
Probably
allergies.
Yeah,
it's probably your favorite moment last year on Armchair Booking, no?
maybe I don't know. I mean,
Top five?
yeah, we'll say top
Certainly
five.
memorable.
Yeah, definitely memorable. Uh, but we even had the video over where he said something about allergies, and all of a sudden I'm like, I know exactly what he's about to do, and he blew his nose on my shirt, and I was like, thanks, Noah. You know, but um, but no, I mean he's been getting his in the ring, so you know, yeah, he decided he was going to be turning to the dark side, but Noah's not in the Royal Rumble this weekend,
No.
and that is what we're going to be discussing. Along with some other news. Yeah, because I do want to cover some of the news that is coming out of WWE first. And one of the things was Seth Rollins was actually hurt last week on Monday Night Raw. And there was speculation, okay, what's he going to do now? Because it turns out is what is MCL and meniscus.
Meniscus, yeah.
Yeah.
Meniscus, I believe, is like a tear of the meniscus as well.
Ooh. Randy, you have the vast medical background. How bad is a meniscus? How long does it normally take to heal?
I don't know if I am the right person on that. I've done a little bit of reading about it. And from what I gather, at least from speculation in his case, as long as he doesn't require surgery, they're talking like conservatively 4 to 6 weeks of like rehab.
Really?
But that is if it is in such a condition where it is non-surgical intervention. Of course, that extends out if it does become surgical intervention.
I mean, we talked about this. I think, Steve, we talked about this last week on Facts or something like that. Or I know we talked plenty about it off, just on the side. But it was either they were going to vacate the title or they were going to find a way to push him through. And it looks like WWE and Seth Rollins are going to find a way just to do whatever they can to maybe shut him down for the next 2 months and just have him ready for Mania only, whether he drops a title, which, if you ask me, I'm on the favor of dropping the title, moving it on to someone else, and
Same
then
here.
let him go recover, whether
Absolutely.
that requires surgery. But it came to a surprise to me on that decision because the last couple of weeks, WWE has really shown a lot about caring for their talent. They've stopped matches throughout the match for the safety of those performers. And so when you take it into a surgical need, like Seth Rollins situation, you kind of almost like, WWE is deciding this decision. They're taking a huge risk. That means anytime you throw him out there for over the next 2 months, you have to be very careful about what you do with them and how he performs.
You got to wonder if you keep running them out there and you do the conservative non-surgical thing, you wonder if are we really doing what's best for him long term, from even if we're thinking of him just as a product and saying, this is something. Yeah. So he's like, kind of getting it back into his 30s. We're definitely not at our prime physically. He said as much in an interview that he wished that his prime mentally and his prime physically kind of met up for a little longer than they do. And so you wondered, are we doing any favors by trying to rehab this and not going for, maybe something that's a more durable repair, or either are we taking more risks with him?
Everything on WrestleMania, right? I mean, isn't the goal with Rollins, top of Raw, top of the WWE, at least one of the tops of the WWE? You got to take him into WrestleMania. You put him through surgery next week. He's not ready. And, WWE has done a lot with like speedy recoveries. We've seen Cena return at a much earlier rate. I mean,
well, Cena's a freak of nature, though. He really is.
But I mean, WWE has probably one of the best when it comes down to medical staff. They'll do absolutely anything for a lot of their, current situations. So you do play a risk with or without this surgery. And who knows that, like I said, in 2 months after WrestleMania, he still may have this surgery done. There's no promises that he's going to be recovered.
Well, he said he's going to be at WrestleMania. He did say that. But I mean, me personally, honestly, I would have brought out Damian Priest right then with a referee, with a briefcase. I'm cashing in right now. You're in the ring, and just attack and I'm pretty sure he would know how to attack the leg without causing any more damage to it.
Didn't it come to you at an odd, though, that Imperium came out of all the people who could have came out? Drew, Punk. I mean, I know Punk had a segment later that night, but even Rhodes, Finn Balor for a chance, or Dominic Mysterio. I know there's been maybe some talks on the table about a Finn and Damian, and looks like, I asked you yesterday, Steve, in a text, was about, coming into the Royal Rumble, contracts that are expected to kind of come up after Mania Balor's one of those. And so, maybe this guy kind of gives him that 2, maybe 3 month push, and then that feud that I would love to see a Balor and Priest match. And for me, that's also a Mania match, if you want to throw it in there.
Maybe, but I mean, like I said, if their contracts are up for renewal and they have not come to terms with negotiations, they are not going to push them as hard, especially with the possibility of putting a title on them, because then you run into issue after what happened with Medusa with the women's title back in 1996,
Yep.
95, 96, with Bret Hart basically almost holding the title hostage, saying, "I'm not going to drop it to Shawn." And of course, then they did the screw job, and they're like, "Yeah, you're dropping it to Shawn, whether you want to or not. You're going to have to drop it to him." The whole thing with Jeff Jarrett when he held the title, well, that one right there, in Jeff Jarrett's defense, he was not holding them up for more money. He was saying, "I want my money, the money you already owe me." That's all he wanted. But either way, he held the title up and saying, "If you don't give me what you owe me in these back royalties, back pay, or whatever it was, I am not going to drop the title to China." And he was going to be dropping the title to China in the Good Housekeeping Falls Count Anywhere, whatever weird match that Vince Russo had drawn up. But either way,
Good housekeeping.
Something it was. They had, I mean, they literally had like a kitchen sink in the ring. I mean, they had, yeah. So,
Good Lord.
Yeah, this was
Television back then.
Yeah, well, Vince Russo back then, and so they're not going to take any chances on somebody having their contract expire and they're a champion, because now they can just leave and they can take the title belt. Well, I've also heard, though, they actually don't let the wrestlers necessarily travel with the belts anymore. They actually have like 2 or 3 of the same belt, like that travels. Then they give it to them the day of the show and they take it back after it's over. But either way, they still want to know what's going to happen. That's
or
what
I think, don't they do have a travel belt for them, but it's like a cheap replica?
somewhat, yeah.
So
Randy, have you heard that?
like
It
they
was my
lose
understanding
luggage?
there was like a different belt that was kind of kept for television appearances because they would be kept nicer to look nicer in HD. And then there was kind of the lesser respectfully treated belt, the one that maybe does the traveling, gets beat up a little bit more, might be the thing being used in the ring kind of thing.
True.
They'll even use those for house shows if I'm not mistaken too. Like, they're very cautious about where those belts go to, especially the bigger ones.
Speaking of house shows, have either of you heard the news that there's a rumor that WWE is going to be going away from house shows?
I did not hear that.
I have.
Yep.
From my understanding, and the last article I read was like back in December about this, because it has been a talk. It's a TKO thing. They want to get. They don't want to eliminate house shows. They're going to do like the holiday festive stuff, like they do, and then maybe that's pretty much it. I mean, they may have a couple other ones throughout the week on occasion, like leading up to SummerSlam, but really nothing big. They're coming back huge.
I imagine from a wrestler health standpoint, that would be a huge plus from them, both mentally and physically. I imagine there would be some concern with, how they're getting paid and things like that. Because my understanding is when they're on the road, they're getting paid using like it's pay sheets, and then otherwise they were getting like their downside. And so I would be curious to see if their pay would become reduced because they're doing less shows.
Oh, that is a good point, because I mean they could be doing kind of like what Eric Bischoff did when he first took over as president of WCW, and I think it was like 95 when he took over. And they were losing money on house shows. And so prior to Bischoff taking over, well, their response was, well, just have more house shows. And he said, why would you do that? You're losing money on them. So that's why WCW actually stopped doing house shows then, because they were losing money. And I understand part of this is it is a financial thing, because maybe WWE is losing money on house shows now. I mean, who knows? Because when you have the tapings, when you have Raw, when you have SmackDown, and then you have the premium live events, there's at least 2 shows a week you can actually go to. And then, like you said, Randy, with the wrestlers with their health, their mental health, physical health, so some of them are going to be involved in Raw and SmackDown. And then throughout the week, all of a sudden they're traveling somewhere else to do a different show, or on Saturday, if it's not an event Saturday, they're going somewhere else to do a
Right.
show in between the SmackDown show on Friday and then the Raw on Monday.
When they were
So
doing the house shows, weren't they doing it like 3 days, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday type, in a row? Or because
That
from
was my
my,
understanding of it.
or started
I
back
mean,
on
I'd seen
Thursday or something. Like,
it could have been. I mean, I may be thinking like old school house shows when the wrestlers they would wrestle like 5 days a week, and
yeah.
every day they're somewhere.
But
And
house shows also did a lot of promoting, and that's what was so great about it. I mean, I think you and I even talked about this, and this is another topic, but you talk about promotions and why is WWE so well known for it? Away from commercials and away from the product, they're heading out to your city. They're going to give you an entertainment that only you, the fans, if you bought tickets to, you can go see, because someone's ain't going to videotape the entire house show, and that's going to promote for either you to watch that product later on that week or for the next couple of weeks, or it's going to also advertise what's coming up. It also provides extra work. So like if if Roman and LA Knight's doing a feud, maybe they get a couple of chances at working a couple of moves out that they want to do on a live show, on a
right.
PLE. But then what's so great about house shows though is that it's versatile. You could take them away, you could add them whenever you want. So just because TKO is deciding, hey, we're going to cut back now, WWE is growing, which maybe in about a year or two, the demand for house shows may come back up again.
Maybe I think it also depends on the wrestler's health because
That's true.
yeah, I mean, you're not going to send Rollins out to do house shows right now because of his leg. Um, some of
Also, a
the
good chance to look at the
and
younger guys are coming up.
maybe
that's usually where you see like the older guys dial back too once they start getting older and getting beat up a little bit, or a lot of it, and they got enough power to do it. They're like, all right, on this contract, we want to dial back the dates.
yep,
So
yeah.
it would make sense, that it would be good for the overall health of the company, like at least their performers, if they were able to do that, even if it's not financially advantageous.
I mean, I can, yeah, I could definitely see that. Well, Roman did that anyway with his latest contract, even
Right.
holding the title, and he still said, "I'm dialing back on the dates," and they just said, "Okay." And I have issues with that because I mean, I know somebody say, "Well, if you don't have them out there every week, it creates that demand. If you don't have them wrestling every week." But then you also have the other side of, well, Rollins in the less than a year that he's held this title has already defended the title more times than what Roman has, who's held the title for 2 years. So
So what? But then I guess my question is then goes back to guys like Dominic Mysterio that may benefit being in the ring 4 times out of the week just to get the extra work to kind of help fine tune some of his in ring ability, so that when it comes down to TV, he's putting on better, maybe more smoother matches. If you eliminate completely house shows, you know, you're cutting back the in ring time, because not all wrestlers are going to the performance center 5 days a week training with you know Fit Finley or whoever is a trainer. They're kind of on that line of, okay, you kind of have to stay in physical shape yourself, and sometimes these house shows can benefit because you take a look at like Veer Mahan, or like I said, Dominic Mysterio, who could definitely, what, a year ago could have used the extra in ring work that you would only
Certainly.
get at a house show, and now you're taking that away from him. So how is he going to better himself in the ring?
And that's a
um,
fair point. That's not really something I was looking at with that, because he has progressed fairly quickly. And I don't know that I rightly attributed the amount of work that you get in with the house shows as being a factor in that. And certainly is something that, until you mentioned it, didn't really come up to me.
well, I mean, we'll have to see how they go with that one because I don't think they've totally killed off the house shows yet. Just kind of look in the future, so it may actually come down to that. Um, but also with TKO, and Justin, you brought this up before we started recording. Dwayne Johnson is now part of the board of directors for WWE, and he's also this actually caught me off guard of seeing this news, but he's actually got complete control of the name The Rock. Is that how it's played
Yep.
out?
Owns the
So
trademark for The Rock now.
so The Rock owns The Rock.
Mm-hmm. I really like this, to be honest, because Dwayne Johnson's been a very, like, his family has been very big into professional wrestling. Um, and this really, he's even talked about this in years past, how he wants to grow professional wrestling. He loves the WWE, and to be able to finally see him take some sort of action of putting his foot in the door in that way, I think he's a big brain. I mean, when WWE had those conversations for years about selling, there were those names like Dwayne Johnson that was in the mix of, could you see a Dwayne Johnson purchasing something like the WWE? And to be, at least, like I said, a part of it now moving forward, you got Paul, kind of being more of the creative team. And
I'm talking about Paul Levesque.
yeah, Paul Levesque, sorry, Triple H. I mean, I feel like you're also seeing wrestlers getting back into the WWE, which I think is fair to say. I've heard this many times. Wrestlers know how to put on a wrestling show. You take business people in
Yes.
business suits trying to put on a wrestling show, you know, no offense, Tony Khan there, and you kind of see what starts happening after a while. You put wrestlers behind those cameras and, behind the creativity that you see inside the ring, and you kind of get yourself a good product.
I definitely think it's an exciting prospect to see The Rock attach himself to WWE and a board of directors role like that. I think it's awesome because he's clearly so passionate about, really passionate about everything he does. But anytime he speaks about wrestling and WWE in particular, he exudes such a love and a passion for it, and speaks commonly about how he loves the good storytelling aspect of it, and the ways to present things to fans that haven't been presented to them quite yet. And so to see him kind of get into that role and maybe be able to affect some things in a way where he can form things into his image a little bit, passion for that storytelling, like great entertainment. I think it's an exciting prospect to see him there.
From my understanding, the board of directors from TKO, you lacked a lot of wrestler knowledge. A lot of it was still either business or UFC in a format. So to bring in a full on actual WWE, personnel, I mean, he's also now, you become an ambassador. He's now a good image to represent not only WWE, but TKO in a positive way. And listen, Dwayne Johnson would have not done this if the WWE was not in a good position or was not heading in a good position. Dwayne Johnson, I consider one of the better smart businessmen. So if he's saying, all right, I want to be a part of this, he must know something that we don't know, that's looking, ahead. That's very positive for the WWE or for TKO and just in general.
And who else could reach out to the audiences of both UFC and WWE in a way that is, for lack of a better term, as household a name as he is, to people even outside of those industries? Like, people are going to know who he is and know that it's something important that he's a part of.
And because Dwayne Johnson went from, okay, $7 entertainment, you know the story about why that's the name of his company, because he had $7 to his name when he told his dad, I want you to train me how to be a wrestler, because his football career had not panned out. Even in Canadian football, part of the Canadian football is because that you can only have so many non-Canadians on the team, and he just happened to be obviously non-Canadian, even though his dad was a Canadian citizen. I don't get that. Yeah, Rocky Johnson was actually Canadian.
I did not know that.
Yeah. In fact, I want to say he was from around Halifax, Nova Scotia, the same as our friend BC Hunter from Wrestling with the Truth, Wrestling with the War. I'll have to ask BC. But by the way, BC's name is going to come up later on in this as well. But with that, Dwayne Johnson, I mean, he's gone from having $7 to his name to now he is the biggest name in Hollywood. Not just biggest wrestler. No, he is like the biggest name right now in Hollywood. And so, I mean, he's done something right. He knows how to negotiate. He knows how business itself works. Not only that, but his now ex-wife, uh, Danny, she actually was already working for some big firm. So I'm pretty sure she taught him quite a bit about
They're
the
still
business.
partners, no?
Yeah, and they are actually partners now, business partners, even though as far as the marriage goes, I mean, because he's already well, I think he had a kid with somebody else before they were split. I think that's the reason why they split. Either way, he's already having kids with somebody. He's with somebody else already. I don't know if she is or not. I mean, I don't know. I don't keep up with all the Hollywood.
I mean, it's The Rock. I mean, who?
I
To be
mean, you know
honest, he's
what?
not going to stay.
Right. I mean, because The Rock, he's just a handsome guy.
He gets better with age. Gosh, he's like
Yeah.
fine wine.
I'm secure in my masculinity. He's a beautiful man.
Yeah, there you go. See, I mean, I'm not gay, but that dude's a stud. But and when he came out, I mean, he has definitely kept himself in shape because he came out on that SmackDown, he was just shredded. And you're
Is he
like,
in ring shape though? Because he got winded pretty easily with those
that's
few.
that's true, because I mean, yeah, so you could tell he's probably still a gym rat, during his off time
Mhm.
because I mean, you'd have to be as cut and defined as what he is. But you're right because that does not account for the endurance that you would need, the cardio that you would need for wrestling matches.
Can I
So
ask you
well, I
guys a
mean,
question, just on like opinion wise as a fan? How long do you think it takes for someone, maybe even as a size as Dwayne Johnson, to get into ring shape? You think if he started off January 1st and he got the green light saying, "All right, you're going to go on with Roman and at WrestleMania, you got 3 months to prepare," you think he could be ready in ring?
I'm gonna defer that to Randy because Randy has actually trained in a wrestling ring before.
Yeah, but for all of 8 hours.
Hey, that's 8 hours longer
but
than me and Justin combined.
I can identify with being blown up though. Uh, what I will say is, I think in that time frame, I think he could probably increase his cardio conditioning to an extent to where we wouldn't notice that he was
Mm,
maybe a little blown up,
yeah.
but that he would probably readily say, "Oh man, I wasn't ready."
Well, I mean, I know we're talking about the Royal Rumble here, but just hypothetically or theoretically, if we're seeing, let's just say we do see Dwayne Johnson and Roman at Mania, right? How long do you think that match is going to last? I mean, is it a 5 minute and done like Brock and Goldberg years ago? Where they just hit signatures and that's it?
Well, that's because Brock and Goldberg, neither one of
Or,
them would have matches that last over 5 minutes to begin with.
yeah.
You
But
know,
you know what I'm trying to
I
say,
wouldn't
though?
see either one of them doing anything under 20.
yeah,
I
that's what I
really
was
don't.
thinking. I was thinking 15 to 20 myself.
Okay. And it's probably going to be really well scripted, probably going to, I mean, if you consider any outside interference, whatnot, to take a little off of, Dwayne there. But I still figure that getting in ring shape for Mania is a different level than getting in ring shape in general, just to go out there and take a couple bumps. My opinion, though. I mean,
Well, I mean, that's part of the
Uh,
scenarios that could happen. Go ahead, Randy.
I was just gonna say that's fair, but maybe maybe I'm being a little bit of a fanboy here. But my thoughts are,
I am. I want
I
to. I
wouldn't
just
be
want to be
too
realistic.
considered. Well, but it skews my view a little bit. I think he'd be fine. I really do.
I mean, and
Maybe
Roman, Roman could actually kind of carry him some, if need be. If they do need to say, all right, I'm winded. All right, I'm going to throw you out of the ring for a little bit and pose, give you a chance to get a breather or put him in some kind. Well, Roman's not really known for rest holds. He's not known for
Right.
putting somebody in a sleeper hold or any kind of submission move. Part of the submission moves is gives guys a break so they can kind of catch the wind back a little bit. And then go back into it. But one of the scenarios, because like I said, I Dwaylen actually sent me his predictions, by the way, and he actually well he sent his and actually so did BC Hunter, and I'm still waiting for somebody else. Actually talking about Ted. I sent Ted to Hillbilly Hill. I sent him a text and asked him for his predictions, but I have a feeling Ted's on the road. Ted, stay safe out there because I know the roads are getting nasty no matter where you're at, whether you're in North Carolina or Ohio, because the weather here is just absolute garbage today. Um, it's all the rain, Randy.
Rain all day.
Yeah, rain
All day.
all day.
At least you weren't in California where it was raining cats and dogs and it got flash flooded everywhere.
Ooh, well, no, Brown
That's not
County.
goodbye.
Where Randy and I live, Brown County, we're known for floods already, apparently. So,
Yeah, things are fairly saturated here, but luckily it doesn't look like it's really doing much in the way of flooding. Thank goodness.
yeah, because and it can, but getting back to The Rock, and let me go to the message actually BC sent me. I'll go ahead and talk about his predictions first. And he actually said for the Rumble itself, for the men's Rumble, he said he's going to pick Punk, but wild card being The Rock if The Rock is involved in the matches. I don't know about The Rock being involved in the Rumble itself, but I can see The Rock getting himself involved in the Fatal 4-Way because I know a lot of people think Roman is going to go. He's going to go into WrestleMania as the champion. So are him and The Rock going to wrestle at a title match? Because
I don't know that makes sense.
Yeah.
Can I propose something pretty bold?
Always. That's what we're here
kind
for.
Of honestly, it does make sense. And Steve, I've talked to you a little bit about this. Just like I said, it's a relation to the Rumble because then it goes to what we could see at Mania. Cody wants to finish this story, and I think he's came out to say, "Well, if I don't finish it this year, then I don't want to be a part of it." Like he's putting a timetable on himself where he wants to. He's like, this year has to be the year, right? Can't miss out another year. But he doesn't need a. He's finishing the story of winning the title that his family never won, right?
The undisputed title, which is not being referred to as the undisputed title.
But he doesn't. I don't think he needs to finish it with Roman.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be Roman.
So then think about it like this: what happened? I mean, the Roman Reigns is about to go into a big feud if they push Rock and Roman at Mania. It's in Philadelphia. Doesn't Dwayne have connections in Philadelphia history? Didn't he grew up there a little bit down some stretch?
No, I don't think it was Philadelphia. It was somewhere in Pennsylvania, though. I don't.
Pennsylvania.
I think it was around Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, wherever.
But still,
I don't know exactly where Bethlehem is.
A lot of meaning to have Dwayne Johnson in Philadelphia. WrestleMania 40, a little bit of history.
Okay. I think Dwayne Johnson. I mean, he's such worldwide. I don't think it really matters where they are located. Now, granted, Miami because he went to University of Miami. That one is kind of a given. But I don't think The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. I don't think he's really associated with Pennsylvania. I mean, he went to high school in Pennsylvania.
Right.
But I
feel like that one's more of like an Easter egg.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to put it. I like that.
Okay. So, but here's my just crazy bold prediction: Fatal 4-Way match. The Rock. Let's say The Rock costs Roman the match because he doesn't need to get pinned to win, which means if he loses the title, he could always come back in a year and say, "I never lost that title. I'm at the top of the table," and he goes on. The only thing that I think, and we're trying to also pinpoint and figure out, all right, if you're not dropping the title now, who, when, and why will you drop the title to? Because you ain't dropping it to The Rock. I don't think The Rock is going to carry that. There's no purpose for him to carry the title. This is a family feud, not a championship feud.
And I don't think TKO would. They're not a wrestling, and this actually may be kind of an advantageous thing to where they're going to look and go, "You're on our board of directors. We're not going to give you a title."
Right.
We're not going to give you one of the championship belts.
The family feud is much bigger than a title itself. So let's say you drop the title Saturday. The only person for me that I see qualifies that could use an interesting WrestleMania run that also fits in redemption of, hey, I want to get back at the bloodline is Randy Orton.
Right. I was thinking the same thing.
Cody Rhodes, WrestleMania. Cody takes the title off of Randy. It's a long history. They grew up. They broke into the industry, or they thrived off the industry together in their young days. right? With
Mhm.
legacy, took a lot of great road
Certainly.
trips, stories. I think that's a better, more of a sweet story to close at, of Cody finishing the story by taking this title off of the legend killer, the guy who would then, who has future Hall of Famer, and then you could still go see Roman and Dwayne Johnson, and guess what? It's a win-win WrestleMania 40 for me.
Certainly. And frankly, with Roman having the title against The Rock, like that wouldn't really do the title or either of them much in the way of doing any favors. It's not really building any of that up much. So to your point, I think what you're saying with Randy Orton and Cody and doing it that way certainly makes a lot more sense. Now, whether they pull the trigger on something like that is
You're right.
yet to be seen. But
Well,
I
there's
think it
pieces
would
there.
be,
I believe there's
yeah, I think
pieces there for Roman or for Randy and Cody. And I just don't know how much longer Randy has in the WWE. He's gone through several fusions, from my understanding. So I think he's limited, and you have a perfect feud right now. Why not give the fans what they want?
And not that, but it'd be a second generation wrestler against a third generation wrestler, so two guys with wrestling in their blood. I mean, they grew up around the business, just like Dwayne Johnson grew up around the business. But the one thing I don't see Cody taking it for Randy's, because right now they're already spinning up a feud between Cody and CM Punk. I don't know. Did you see the promo, the dual
Yeah,
promo they did on
they
Raw?
they took
Randy,
some
did you
big
see it?
shots.
Did you see
now
it?
I did miss that. I
Oh,
missed that
it
one.
was.
I had tuned out
Ooh.
before that occurred.
Yeah, since I mean you get up at like 1 o'clock in the morning to go to work. So you were probably asleep, which is probably a good thing.
Oh yeah, I go to bed at a lame hour.
Yeah, but I mean, you know what? It's part of the job. I mean, I get it.
Well, how
And
many times has WWE started a feud and then put a pin in it for later down the road? We're heading into the Rumble. You need something to talk about. You have two, top guys on Raw face to face. Yes, this could be a great feud down the road. I'm honestly thinking, Cody has to go through what I believe what Seth Rollins did last year, Shawn Michaels did years ago, where he needs that match, he needs the Rumble win, and then Punk eliminates him. Therefore, he doesn't get that title win. Now he has to find another way, maybe at Elimination Chamber, to earn that number one contender spot, and he may get cost again or something like that. Who
when is
knows?
Elimination Chamber? Is it in
February 17th or
is it
yeah, February 17th, I
February
believe.
17th? Okay.
Well, that's
So wow, that's
fairly
only
close together.
yeah, it is. It's like
That's really close together.
3 weeks
I
apart.
can
And
look that up just to double check.
so okay, if they have Punk and Cody could go at it at Elimination Chamber. Uh,
Both
but
inside the cage, inside the
yeah,
elimination chamber.
but I mean, because
February
Randy,
24th. Sorry.
that makes a little bit more sense. Randy, if you get a chance, go find that promo, the two of them together in the ring. Oh, it was getting very, very personal. Now
But see,
I
Oh,
don't know if it
really?
was I don't know if it was scripted like that, if it's like a work shoot, but
yeah. Well, see, here's the number one thing all of Cody's opponents can now go after him about. Oh, I've had an interaction with your father saying that I'm better than you, or that you're, whatever the case may be.
here there they're trying to outdo Christian Cage with the whole father thing.
Well, because they did it, Paul Heyman did it last year with Cody. No,
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even think
I
about that.
mean, I think there was another feud sometime this year that similar situation. I just feel like they've been using Dusty's past in order to help create this story.
Well, I would think that Cody would actually probably tell them, he would probably have to give them permission to do that, because
Oh yeah,
I would
Cody,
certainly think so.
yeah, because I mean, now Vince McMahon would just do stuff without actually talking to them first, and that's when all of a sudden you had, um, what's her name? Oh my God, British now Soraya, and what was
Yeah.
why am I
Paige.
losing
Yeah.
Paige back in the
Paige?
day.
Thank you. I'm telling you, I'm going to be hiding my own Easter eggs this year, but Paige, when she brought up Reed Flair, or Reed Fleer, his real name, and
Mhm.
about him dying to Charlotte, or Ashley Fleer, and his name was brought up. And of course, I mean, he died a few years before that. He had died of a drug overdose, and all of a sudden his name was brought up, and all of a sudden Paige was referring to him as a loser and things like that. I mean, and yeah, everybody understood it was scripted, but it was like, whoa, you're kind of
Boy,
stepping
it's
over
still,
some.
that's
Yeah.
not just blurring the line. That's just poor taste.
And Ric Flair and Beth Flair, Charlotte's mom, Reed's mom, they were pretty hot about it because they said they were never ever consulted about it. About, hey, is it okay if we actually use his name, use him in a promo? And they're going to, because I know Ric Flair would have been like, absolutely not. And Beth Flair probably been the same way. Absolutely not. You're not going to use my son's name, my dead son, in one of your promos. And they did anyway. So I imagine Cody, though, actually has enough stroke now, that he could actually say, no, you're not going to be using my dad's name. Because Cody, from what I understand, if somebody's talking about Dusty, if they're interviewing him or they bring up his dad, well, I mean, which is hard not to, because his dad was so iconic. And with anybody who's a second generation wrestler, you're always going to get the comparisons to your parents. And with Cody, though, it's been said that if somebody starts doing a Dusty Rhodes impression, by Dusty Rhodes, if you will, yeah, the American Dream, if they start doing that, he will cut the interview off and say, we're done. He does not want to hear stuff like that because he finds it disrespectful. And
I
even
can
though
see that, yeah.
yeah, I mean, and
But
even though
Dusty
whoever,
played
Yeah.
such an influence on this generation of wrestling today. And I mean, but Cody and I would arguably say Charlotte too, they are business people. And these things create, whether it's real or not, create heat, and it brings money in at the end of the day. So
it's not some heat you can sustain though, because that's because I can tell you, I mean, there's some things that you try to bring them up with me, it's no longer going to be a work.
Right.
It's going to end up in a shoot real quick because you're bringing up stuff that you don't have any business bringing up. But that's just me. That's just my personality. And with Cody, with him bringing up Dusty, and he Punk wasn't bringing up Dusty in a negative way. He was just saying, Dusty asked me to look out for you when you were in OVW, when you started out. And he was actually complimenting Cody. He said, I realized you really didn't need anybody to look out for you because you weren't falling into these bad habits that a lot of our contemporaries are doing, all our peers are doing. And he is talking about like the drugs and a lot of the crowds and everything else. And Cody is pretty straight laced as far as I know. I mean, you don't see him getting arrested for things. I mean, you see his older brother Dustin. I mean, he actually had some trouble with the law at times, and he had a drug problem for a little bit. But I mean, obviously he's cleaned up now. And but Punk, the way when he said, "I'm more of what your dad was than you are," and it was like, oh, that's kind of a low blow. But then.
Right.
Of course, and Cody turned around and he named all these things off about Punk, and he said, now I'm more CM Punk than you are, going like anti-establishment and things like that. I mean, dude, it was a great,
They refer
great.
back to the pipe bomb
I'm
and everything.
definitely going to have to check that out.
Yeah, you got to check that out. But I mean, but you could see, I mean, they're going to meet in the ring. It's just a matter of when. And so, I mean, I would like to see Randy Orton, along with Randy Sizemore, Rescue Randy. I like to see him walk up with the title too. And
well, I mean,
I feel like I need a belt.
You do.
I go back to the idea of, the clock is ticking, right? So how many more opportunities?
A belt for Randy. I'll bring to church Sunday.
How many more opportunities do you have a chance to see Randy and Cody? And is that not a WrestleMania worthy match to see? But if you look at like this fatal four way though, I mean, you throw in LA Knight, you throw in AJ Styles, that I think the reason why you throw them in is to help Randy, support him in a singles competition match, like in a prime, spotlight. And it also gives in where you have to, if Roman does lose, he doesn't have to get pinned, which is a big deal because now you still keep his integrity in sync.
Honestly, that's the reason I don't really care for like the 3, 4, 5-way matches unless they make them elimination matches. Now that would actually make more sense because it's a way for somebody to lose a title without actually losing a match.
But in this scenario, that's the only reason. That's the only thing that makes sense.
I mean, it's
I
still
think in
kind of
this scenario, it does make sense. I think in other scenarios, sorry,
you're
I'm having
fine.
a little trouble with my words here. It can be kind of a writing cop out. It's like I don't want to damage this guy, but I want the title off of him. But to the point of Justin there, I think in this situation it makes sense.
I mean, I can see why they're going to do it. Now, so far, like I said, BC has called for Roman to actually win the match. Why isn't my phone coming up so I can actually see the rest of his predictions? There we go. He said Roman to win that match. And Dwaylen said the same thing. Let me pull up Dwaylen's text. Roman wins his match, no doubt about it. He's not dropping the title in a thrown together fatal four-way. Fair enough. One thing he also did say, though, about Seth Rollins, he said if Seth has to relinquish the world title due to injury, which is still a possibility, they should put it up for grabs in the Rumble match. Now, they only have, today's Wednesday, that on the day we're recording this, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. They only have 3 days to do that. But, I mean, it could be a possibility.
I wasn't necessarily a fan of that title match that what took place years ago with Triple H, right? When they
that was Triple H. That was him exerting, his power as the COO. And actually,
I just think you could work around it a bit differently.
Well, that was also them trying to, they were doing whatever they could to make Roman Reigns look like a sympathetic babyface, and it still didn't work. And that's when he said, "Oh, Roman." That was Roman defending the title in the Rumble,
right?
Like back in '92, the title was vacant, and so it was up for grabs in the Rumble. It was everybody, had a shot. And that's one of the rare cases of like Roddy Piper that day wrestled for the Intercontinental title and the World title all in the same event because he won the Intercontinental title from the Mountie on that event. So, but that's some more trivia for you. By the way, I just figured I'd throw that in there because I'm kind of a wrestling geek know-it-all. Not to the point
Mountie.
of
that's someone I haven't thought of in a while.
Yeah, I guess the Mountie might actually be at the Fan Fest in Chillicothe in March, which I don't know if I'm going to go to it or not because, well, money. Because some things are not cheap. So it's $20 to get in, and that's even before you start paying for autographs and
$400 just to get an autograph.
It can actually
$20 for your right to pay for another autograph.
Yeah, but Randy's been with me getting pictures made with Archer. Yeah, was it Archer?
Lance Archer.
Lance Archer and Jimmy.
We've had
and
Jimmy Hart as well.
Yep.
There's one other EC3 as well.
EC3, that one, because EC3 actually, I have the picture of this. He had the world title belt upside down at first, remember? So he had it upside down. I was like, hey, dude, the title's upside down. He kind of gave me a look like, and he flipped it. And I have that belt right back there that he autographed. The only current champion I had autographed that belt, along with, let's see, Abyss, Tommy Rich, and Dan Severn. I have all four of those autographs on that belt right behind me. And Randy saw EC3 do it. He was there. That was fun.
Yes, sir. Now the question is, who do we add next?
Who do I add next? If I meet Ric Flair, now he'll probably charge me $500 for it, but
is that
probably?
And for Ric Flair to sign it, maybe. I don't know, but I'd have to, say I don't have $500 here. I'll give you a picture of my feet. You can go sell that to see how much money you can get. Trust me. I'm not working. I'm gonna have to do something here. I'm gonna start selling pictures of my bighairyfeet.com and see if such a site exists.
Hey, people will
Good
buy.
Lord.
I don't know.
People you'd be surprised some of the weird crap people paid for. But anyway.
So am I the only one
Steve
that's
on
gonna
Only
go
Feet.
out? Am I gonna be the only one that goes out on a limb and say Roman drops the title?
You might. I mean, I would like to
he's
see
keeping
him.
it.
I would like. I mean, this is where we go. What we think should happen, but what will happen. I think he should drop it, but I think he's going to keep it. And I think specifically, like you said, Randy Orton should be the one to walk away with it. That way, they can set up the thing with him and Cody. But Cody has to get past Punk first. I don't
like I said, that feud could even be put a pin on it. Let's address that later. It's just the start of something new. We're just getting ourselves, into WrestleMania. Maybe we don't necessarily have a full-on direction for Punk yet, because you know, I for whatever reason, I don't know. I just see a golden opportunity, and maybe I'm choosing the wrong, you know, person to win this match, but I really feel like if Hunter is giving the fans what they're wanting, and you want to build an excitement, you're trying to blow up the WrestleMania 40. It's really big. There's so much history behind it. You got two mega star matches right there, and just practically almost one storyline that has been a complete circle last year.
You know, I just
That
not.
I would pay thousands of dollars to go see. I don't know. That's for me.
I just thought of something. Like you said, Cody, for him to finish the story, it does not have to be Roman. He just needs to beat somebody for the title.
Okay.
One of the predictions I've also seen about the men's rumble, Dwaylen says CM Punk. BC Hunter from Wrestling with the Truth, Wrestling with the War, Wrestling with the 80s, our friend from Nova Scotia, he also says Punk, but he said, of course, The Rock is a wild card. A lot of people are calling for Punk to win the Rumble. If Punk wins a Rumble, of course, now he's going to automatically have a title shot at Mania. Do you think there's a possibility all of a sudden they throw Cody in there for a three-way at Mania? Which I don't necessarily like doing that, because to me it kind of robs the person who actually earned,
I
the
think the
title
last
shot.
time they did that was with Brian Danielson, and that ended up for me. That was just a tarnish of Edge winning, and
That was 10 years ago, by the way.
yeah, still, I mean, that still left such a scar on me. Well, no, wasn't that?
It
That
wasn't
was what,
Edge. It
3 years
was
ago,
it.
4 years ago.
No, I'm talking like WrestleMania 30. It was Daniel Bryan. Of course, he had to beat Triple H in the opening match. But then he got, if he beat Triple H in the opening match, then he was inserted into
Right.
the main event.
What I'm talking about though was when Edge won the Rumble when he back in the pandemic, excuse me, and then they throw in Brian Danielson and make it a triple threat match, and then we had this match. It wasn't a bad match. I just didn't like the idea because Edge came back proclaiming that he had one more title run in him, and then they just erased it like it was nothing.
I agree, because I did feel like it did take it away from Edge. Just like, well, Batista, that whole year, that Rumble was like one of the biggest controversies anyway. And because people were just booing it. I mean, they booed the whole event. And because they love Daniel Bryan that much. But throwing Daniel Bryan in the final match, the world title match, even though he did not win the Rumble, but I mean, it was at the fans' demand. I mean, the fans wanted Daniel Bryan to be in that match, and they got it, and he ended up winning the match. And then, of course, 2 months later, he had to give up the title because he had injured his neck again. But I could see them doing that because Cody wants to finish the story. Punk, he's trying to, I don't know if Punk's trying to redeem himself. I don't think that Phil Brooks actually has that kind of conscious about him, because, I mean, he does try to make everything about him, so, but he may have changed in the 6 months between him and Jungle Boy getting into a fight in the locker room in Wembley until, which led to him getting fired from AEW. And now he's back in WWE. He says he's home, so he has his own story. Now, does Punk need a world title? I don't think so. Cody, though, like you said, Randy, I mean, in his mind, like Shawn Michaels, he needs this. So Cody in his mind needs this. And so I could see Cody doing something to get himself into the, because I don't see Cody winning the Rumble again. Not because he won it last year, didn't he? And yeah, so 2 years in a
That's kind of
row.
why I was pulling for him, frankly. I
You
actually
want to see
kind of had him as
the consecutive?
I didn't think anybody would expect it.
True.
And that's kind of why I did. Is like they're focusing on finishing the story. It's like I think that's exactly why nobody would expect them to take it twice.
And that would definitely
because
put him
everybody's
into.
expecting them to finish it last year.
So you think Cody's going to take the Rumble this year?
I think he takes the Rumble this year.
My thing is with Cody taking the Rumble is that he's trying to earn his spot back at number one contender. That's
Right.
what he went on this long, this feud with Brock Lesnar, and he's apparently, he's faced Shinsuke Nakamura this past year, and I feel like he gets so close, and then, like I said, a guy like Punk, who they're building a feud with him, eliminates him, out of nowhere. Not, I wouldn't say in the final spots, but you kind of have to say, is Cody going to be able to, achieve what he set out to accomplish? And now he's going to have to hold on to it just a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? Make the fans want to, all right, build in just that much deeper into the story as the next month settles. All right, what's the next opportunity at getting a title shot or at Roman or whatnot? Because then you just kind of presume that Roman's kind of already preoccupied in his plans. You're going out, the Rumble winner's going to probably go after Raw. Just, that's what I'm thinking here. And so now you have, Punk ruining Rhodes' Royal Rumble opportunity. He gets himself in the Elimination Chamber. Maybe he gets, left out of a spot again. I don't know, but I don't think Cody could win the Rumble this year. I think there's so much great talent that whatever the storyline is for Rollins, and that's still even a tough subject, I think the Rumble goes after Rollins this year.
And then that's when you have to include Damian Priest in there as well. Even though Damian Priest is part of the Rumble,
so yeah,
but he's also the Money in the Bank briefcase holder, and he has been now for about 10 months.
And so let's not. I mean, we saw more cracks in the Judgment Day like this past Monday.
They're splitting up. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
They have a
For
tag
sure.
team title next week, and just like I said, another theoretical just opinion. Seth and Finn had a great feud. What happened? What if you see Finn win it? He's never won a Rumble, has he?
No.
So Finn,
No,
I know
not.
he's out the door, and we talked about this almost. I don't know if he's out the door, but he's one of those guys who doesn't know his future after Mania. But you don't even give him the title. Finn, Rollins, Mania. Let's say Finn does hold it. That's a 30-second win, and then Priest cashes it in or even inserts it in and becomes, a triple threat match that way.
I'll tell you, if Damian Priest hasn't cashed in by WrestleMania, he's going to cash in at WrestleMania.
I mean, he does have until Backlash, does he not, or until WrestleMania?
I think it's Backlash after WrestleMania is when they
Is
set, yeah, or the next Money in the Bank. If they haven't cashed in by then, well, sorry about your bad luck. But if he hasn't cashed in by Mania, he will cash in at Mania. Of course, we'll cross that bridge. We'll have that same roundtable discussion, for Mania. But
so could you see Finn Balor winning it? I mean, I know we talked about this briefly, and you wouldn't want to put someone who could be out of the company by summertime in this position. But
if they don't have a contract negotiation, they're not going to put them with the Rumble. The same thing with Drew McIntyre, who, by the way, I got the Drew McIntyre shirt on today. I just wanted to point that out. My wife got me that a couple years ago for Christmas.
Which sucks because Damian and Drew had an incredible main event.
And as you would expect them to, because they're both, very, very top-notch wrestlers. And so I would expect their main event to be really good and very physical, knowing those two guys, but both very physical, but having lots of moves in their repertoire, which so shows they're not just big men in the ring. I mean, they're big and they're good. But Drew McIntyre is also in the Rumble as far as I know.
He is in the Rumble. I have the list right here. It's Akira Tozawa, Bobby Lashley, Chad Gable, CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, Damian Priest, Drew McIntyre, Gunther, Kofi Kingston, Otis, and Shinsuke Nakamura, the current people as of today that has entered the Royal Rumble draft.
I don't see them listing a lot of names between now and Friday night.
No.
But and I'm kind of glad because it's one of the things I don't want to know every single entrance name before the Rumble.
Akira, Chad, and Otis was named on last week's episode of The Bump, I believe.
Right.
So, that was like a social media. But, okay, so if I'm going to throw it out there, I'm just going to go on a limb and say Balor for the Rumble. But, last Monday, we did see Gunther come out and now make his first approach saying, hey, now I want that title?
They're not going to have Gunther win the Rumble while he's still Intercontinental Champion.
Okay. Well, it
Because
makes sense.
Gunther has actually brought back prestige to the IC title. I mean, what do you think, Randy?
I think he's making it about as relevant as it's been in a very long time with an impressive long title run. And when you see what he's doing in the ring, like you see what he's doing and you understand just by looking at him. That man is a champion. Everything he does is so calculated. No move is wasted. And frankly, as soon as he comes out, I can't take my eyes off the screen. It feels like whatever he's doing, it feels like it deserves my attention.
That's a good way to put it, because especially since Gunther, I've seen more people post about this, and I'm glad they posted about it as well, because it's something I noticed. How do you try to prepare for a match against somebody who has more than one, more than two, more than three ways to beat you? Because he'll beat you with a power bomb. He'll beat you with a submission move. Oh, now he's going to beat you with a different submission move. Oh, he's just going to beat you down until you go unconscious and pin you. I mean, he has so many different ways of doing it. So Gunther is legit. Now, the only way I could see them putting him in the world title picture is if he drops the IC title first. Now, who he's going to drop it to, that's another debate for another day, because I don't see him losing it between now and Saturday.
And on a side note, you see the body transformation, I should say, on Gunther over his title reign. Going from having just a little few extra pounds on him to just being
lean,
the absolute peak lean physical form that he is.
I mean, he looks, like, well, honestly, he almost looks like he has a gym teacher vibe about him, but
I think it's the haircut.
It must be. It's got to be the haircut. But I mean, he looks legit, and he is legit, and he's very intelligent, and of course he may not be sleeping a lot lately, Justin, you know about this, because his wife just had a baby herself, so he's not sleeping a lot right now. We've all been there.
Still going through it. And I listen, I'm not even, this is just WWE's growing. We're seeing the changes. I'm not saying it this time around, but who doesn't say that Gunther, as someone, and he would qualify as a candidate if like I said, WWE would rarely do this, and you'd rarely see any other promotions do this, but history is always meant to be broken. He could always hold two titles. There's nothing in the rule book saying that you can't hold two titles, especially
there used to be.
Well, but I think that's all kind of gone away now. I mean, if he's a fighting champion,
I mean, Kurt Angle was the as he called it, Euro-Continental title when he had the European Championship and the Intercontinental title at the same time.
And then he lost them both on the same night by not getting pinned, either one.
But if you look at, if anyone on that list that could, just like I said, I'm not saying it's going to happen, it most likely will not happen. Gunther it fits that bill. I mean, he's definitely proved himself, especially ever since that, Royal Rumble stretch that he went. That
could work. They could put the world title on Gunther, and then he relinquishes the IC belt, and
nobody ever beat me for this title.
Exactly. Because that's what Warrior did when Warrior beat Hogan for the world title at WrestleMania 6 in Toronto. Of course, Warrior was already the Intercontinental Champion, and so they had him relinquish the belt because they said, you can't hold both. That was part of their rule. Now, I mean, they've kind of gone away from that, but they could also put, Gunther himself could say, look, I want to focus on the world title, so I'm going to relinquish the IC title, as the greatest champion, nobody beat me. Honky Tonk Man can't even say that, because the Warrior, he smacked Honky Tonk Man around like he stole something.
No one's ever going to probably surpass that Gunther's reign.
I'm just glad to see Honky Tonk Man's reign finally go down, because I was
no doubt.
I was a wrestling fan when he beat Steamboat for the IC title, and I'm like,
does that then give Gunther a probability of winning the Rumble?
I don't think so. Not this year. Just because
I even threw it out there. This is WrestleMania match, and you called it crazy, but Gunther and Brock. I mean, how much of it would it do for a Gunther to pick up a victory over Brock? Just
Well,
you know,
Brock won't go for the IC title. I mean,
he can
and
drop
that's
it, cost him.
well, I mean, but they're not going to put Brock
I
himself.
know,
I mean,
right?
he you talking about somebody who really controls more of their career than anybody else has ever really done. Brock would not go, he would not be in the Intercontinental title picture. He's only going to be in the world title picture. That's just the way like him and his character are. He's like, why would I go for that title when, but I mean, but you never know because I never thought that Ric Flair would be a Triple Crown champion. Ric Flair, of course, won the WWF title back in '92, and then he dropped it, and then he won it again, and then he dropped it again. But he's a WWF champion, and then when he finally came back, what was it in 2003, 2004? Well, him and Piper ended up becoming tag team champions for a bit, and then Flair won the Intercontinental title for a bit. So Flair's actually a Triple Crown champion. So Flair actually went backwards. That's some person you would never thought would go backwards from a world title. He did it. So you're right, Brock Lesnar. It's possible, but
Well,
I like to see him and Gunther go at it because I think that'd be a great match.
so what about this though?
That'd
What
be a
about
heck of a match.
what about Saturday? Gunther eliminates Brock. Brock makes an appearance and enters the Rumble match as a filler. Okay, just throw it out there. And then Brock doesn't like that, so he ends up, Gunther has a title defense, and then Brock ends up costing him the title, which leads a Mania match. Because who's right now on the roster is worthy enough to dethroning Gunther?
That's not already involved with something.
That's not already involved in something.
Because but so as soon as you throw that there, because Cody could beat him, I think. I mean, he would be
Probably.
worthy of beating him, but Cody's already.
Cody's going backwards now.
Yeah, Cody would be going
So
backwards.
who's on that roster that could use a WrestleMania spot and beat Gunther for the title? Or,
I would actually have to go through. You know what? The person I seen doing it honestly is probably Chad Gable. Even though they just had their little series of matches, I could see them bringing Chad Gable back because Chad Gable, even though he's been losing on TV here lately, because he just
So-
lost to Ivar Monday night. Great match, by the way. Yeah, Randy, you got
didn't he
definitely
just
go
beat
check out that
Ivar a
match
couple
too.
weeks prior to that?
I think so, but Ivar beat him. I mean, and it was a brutal
it was.
match. But I mean, it was a really good match, and I think that was kind of showcase Ivar too, because I think the Viking Raiders or Viking Experience or Norwegian Vikings, whatever they're calling them this week, I think they need to get more of a push than what they actually have been getting. And calling what's her name, Sarah Logan Valhalla, please change her name. Because seriously, change her name back to something not as goofy sounding because she's a lot better wrestler than what they're giving her credit for.
What it is that it's the way that they're using them. They're dominant people. They could be dominant as the Viking Raiders with Valhalla, but they're just not being used as that dominant team. They're being, beaten. And, I mean, you see what worked in NXT with guys like the Viking Raiders and AOP is that they were a dominant factor. They ran over people and no matter what, you couldn't beat them. And when you come,
especially with AOP.
Exactly. And so when you could now be shown that you can be beat from, and you're this big, massive person that shouldn't be beat logically, then it all crumbles down, regardless who you are or what name you use.
Certainly.
I think
on a side note, the Valhalla thing is just silly.
It is.
I'm like, silly. She was cool enough as Sarah Logan.
Exactly. Even though wasn't it Sarah Logan because she's from Louisville? I think she was. I believe she's from Louisville, right?
Yep.
And they were the one that said.
I believe so. Yeah.
And I was laughing because one time they said from the backwoods of Kentucky, and I'm like, I didn't realize Louisville was considered backwoods. Seriously, people. It's got like over 500,000 people in Louisville. I don't think it's backwoods at all. Now you get
Could be
around.
West Paducah.
Could be West Paducah. I don't know if Waylon's listening, but
hey, so the Royal Rumble is notorious for surprises, and I've even heard on social media that Booker T wants to enter in.
It's hard to predict. The real surprises because when Cody Rhodes came back to the Rumble, it was like a foregone conclusion. Everybody knew he was coming back. For the men this time, who I'd like to see come back. Honestly, it would actually help out with the story. Is Goldust, Dustin Rhodes. If
I always secretly hope he's coming out for the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, because I don't. I don't know what his status is right now with AEW. He's said that this is it, but then again, to join his brother for one last hurrah, that would probably be one of the coolest things ever. And the crowd would just pop hard if Dustin Rhodes, if Gold Dust all of a sudden came out. I can see that one, but it's
Certainly.
because you don't know. I mean, Hulk Hogan has hinted that he's going to come back for the Rumble. And it's in Tampa. Hogan lives in Tampa.
Taker's going to be there at ringside because he has the one last Dead Man show in Florida
There you
on
go.
Sunday.
And Hogan, yesterday marked 40 years of Hulkamania. Him beating the Iron Sheik in the Garden for the title. So Hogan, has hinted that he's going to be in there. I'd like to see Bo Dallas come in there for a lot of other reasons, because they've actually hinted that they're going to bring the Uncle Howdy character back. Obviously, because of what Bray Wyatt is suddenly passing away. And yeah, so Bo Dallas, I've heard talk of him coming back, but it's hard to predict the surprise entrances like that. Now I will say for the women, because I'm gonna move on to that one, because we all have our well, I don't know if I actually
we
did
finally
a pick.
see Jade Cargill make her WWE
That's actually
debut.
what BC Hunter said. He said if Jade Cargill is there, she's gonna be the wild card to win the Rumble. If she's not there, it's gonna be Bayley.
I think that'd be exciting to see.
Yeah, because Jade Cargill, I guess I'm kind of privileged to say I was actually there in person for her last match in AEW, because it was actually in Cincinnati at Heritage Bank, whatever it's called now. And
Heritage Bank Arena,
the arena right beside Great American Ballpark. And yeah, they ought to call it that, the Great American Arena. But, when I saw AEW there a few months ago, when they did the Rampage taping, it was her and whoever it was that beat her for the title. I cannot think of her name right now, but it was basically her rematch. And then after the match, they gave each other a big hug. And I had a feeling, I was like, yeah, that might be her last match here. And then sure enough, like a week later, she was popping up on either Raw or SmackDown, like in the limo. So
I think she'll be a good fit for WWE too. I'm kind of excited to see what she pulls off there. It'd be cool to see her pop up at the Rumble.
Oh, Jade Cargill. I mean, she's another one. She's legit. I mean, she's got a good look. She's got a good move set. I mean, she's, she gives good promos. I mean, she's very, very confident in the ring. So, I don't know why it's taking them so long now. I don't know. Maybe she was kind of resting up some injuries, or maybe training with them, because the different companies do have different styles of doing things. For one thing, the rings a lot of times are different sizes. WWE uses a 20 by 20. AEW is it 18 by 18? I don't know.
I believe they're also 20 by 20.
Are they 20 by 20? Okay. Because I know like OVW are 20 by 20. But like WCW, they were 18 by 18. Or NWF, I think they're either 18 or they maybe even be 15 by 15. So
last time I heard it,
it makes a difference.
What was TNA? What's Impact's ring?
Say it again.
Impact.
I think they were 18 by 18.
Really? Okay.
The Impact ring.
Impact.
They look really small. That's why I'm asking.
I don't know. Maybe we can ask our buddy Wildcat Chris Harris. He's back there also. Yeah, he would know.
I imagine he'd probably have a pretty good answer on that.
Yeah, he would.
There's so many reasons why you just go with Jade Cargill, and I think it's almost given. I mean, from the list, you got Bayley, Becky Lynch, Bianca, Ivy Nile, Maxine Dupree, and Nia Jax that so far has given their way in. But, Jade Cargill is going to be used in particular situations. And I think a lot of people were excited. I think if, circumstances were different, we would have saw a Charlotte and, yes, Jade for other reasons.
That would be, I think that would be a great series right there.
And I wish, Charlotte the best of recovery. But one of my fears is that who do you have on SmackDown as a champion?
Right.
Io Sky.
Io Sky, right? Yeah.
And then you look at who you have on Raw, Rhea Ripley. They're on two different levels. So if Jade comes in and wins that title, it's going to be just hard for me to see Jade beat Io Sky compared to her facing Rhea, because Rhea's been lacking maybe the talent side, like the star power to be facing her. And I think a Rhea and Jade would be an excellent match at Mania. But there's just no one else on that list. I mean, not even Nia Jax, who recently returned, it for me is worthy enough to win the women's Royal Rumble. So I know that list is much smaller, but realistically, any other names that really fit the bill? I mean, the only other case I could say, Bayley. If Bayley wins the title or wins the Rumble, she can finally, I would say get revenge in the sense of, Damage Control has been pushing off to the side lately. That's why,
Oh,
that's would be my only other case.
You see, that's
For
another
sure.
faction that you see. We can see it because we've been wrestling fans for a long time, and so we recognize the signs that they're going to be splitting up. And I have a feeling Bayley is going to be making a face turn, here relatively soon. It's been a very slow burn on this, and I don't know if she's going to be bringing the Hugger Bayley back, the Bayley buddies, things like that, because that character, yes, people liked it, but at the same time, it was not a
Held her down.
yeah.
Yeah.
It had a
And it was
ceiling
kind of
to it.
played out. It was time for it to stop when it did.
Right. And let me see. Dwaylen
I'm gonna
says,
change. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Dwaylen says, Women's Rumble, Becky Lynch.
Mm.
Because, and I like his logic. He said, Lynch and Rhea Ripley, that's the money match for Mania. I'm like, that makes a lot of sense.
So can I
go-
point one thing out?
yes.
The Rumble winners have not always gotten the spotlight, especially in the women's last several years. I'm going to actually, if you don't mind me changing, I'm saying Bayley, because it gives her the reason to play up. And one thing we also haven't seen lately is that normally that episode after the Rumble, they automatically say who they're going against. You can see Bayley kind of toying a little bit, saying, "Hey, I'm going to go after Rhea," kind of being on Damage Control side, and then turn on, Damage Control and turn on Io Sky. That doesn't have to be a main event. They're not giving them the main event match anyways. You could still create a Becky Lynch, Rhea Ripley situation without a Rumble winner.
Without the Rumble. Yeah, exactly.
It would do much better for Io and Bayley to give shine on that title and that storyline if you put the Rumble behind it.
If I like the idea of Bayley, because if Damage Control, because there's 5 of them right now in Damage Control, am I right? Is it 5 or is it 4? Let's see.
5. You got Dakota Kai, Io Sky, Asuka, and then I don't know the other 2.
Bayley and
Bayley, and then someone else. Blair Davenport. No, is Blair Davenport up yet? Or
I'm about to go look
sorry,
this up. I have to go look it up.
Randy, what do you think?
Some wrestling fans we are.
Yeah.
Goodness, can't even think all the names. I'm not doing any better either.
I mean, do you agree with Bayley though? Like as a good candidate?
Dakota Kai, Io Sky, Kairi Sane. Kairi Sane's the other one,
Okay.
and Asuka. Duh. Go ahead, Randy. Sorry.
I do think Bayley would be a good candidate on that. Frankly, they've been, as Steve pointed out, they've been doing the slow burn on the Damage Control breakup. A lot of that has been at the expense of either Bayley taking the punishment or made to look like a fool. And I think it's about time to maybe with that scenario in the Rumble, kind of start that upswing of the return of the face Bayley.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
I think that would work.
How about this in the Rumble itself? Of course, you're going to have Io Sky. She's not going to be part of the Rumble because, well, she's already the women's champion. There's no reason for her to be in the Rumble. The other members of Damage Control could be in the Rumble, and Bayley starts chucking them out because they have some kind of argument or whatever backstage or something, something they always do before a breakup or something happens. Maybe
it could come down to them 4 in the ring, and then they decide, I'm going to tackle on Bayley, and then one after one, you could even, you could see, other people coming out to aid Bayley at some point. We're also prone to see those moments in the Rumble itself.
Right, and so
there's so many possibilities with that match. I love it.
Oh, and Bayley could, she could end up as a Rumble winner, and because she knows she's being pushed out because they haven't been helping her out when she's been in the ring, and they're like, well, we thought you wanted to do it on your own. It's like, no, not if you're heels, not if you're bad guys. And of course, I mean,
Right.
she
Could
didn't
you
say it
see
like that, but
maybe someone, when Bailey music hits and she's entered in, you know how they always attack someone before they get to the ring, and then
Mhm.
therefore they're out of the match for a period of time. Bailey comes back at the end of the Rumble to then maybe throw them
to
out,
make
saying,
a
"All right, this
miraculous
is
comeback, yep.
exactly."
I mean,
I
that could
mean,
happen, and it would set up, like you said, Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley. They don't need the Rumble necessarily because they are already at it. I mean, even though I definitely agree with Dwalen's logic, because yeah, that is a money match. Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley, oh, that is definitely a money match, no doubt. But they don't need the Rumble to set it up. Whereas Bailey, I think it would actually add more intrigue to it with her winning the Rumble than her looking right at her right now, her stablemate going, I want your title. And then, of course, it's like the Four Horsemen when they kicked out Sting because Sting had a title shot against Flair. And I know I'm going old school there because that's back from like 92, 91, 92 time frame. Um, but
Hey, what's old is new. You could recycle that.
yeah, maybe even 93. But yeah, Sting had the title shot against Flair. So the Horseman, he was a horseman for about 2 minutes and they kicked him out because he had the title shot and he wouldn't give it up. So I mean, that's an old storyline, obviously, because that was from 30 years ago and 30 plus years ago. And you could always bring it back, though, because as long as you don't use it too often, so I will go with Bailey also to win the Rumble. Although I do see if Jade Cargill comes back, because a lot of WWE fans they're not necessarily familiar with Jade Cargill because some WWE fans are WWE only. And so they refuse to watch anything, especially AEW. And so they don't know Jade Cargill is very talented and she's going to bring a lot to the ring. I think it's a little early to get Jade Cargill a title shot.
well, what you could also do with Jade, I mean, yeah, maybe she makes her debut. Maybe she's the number one person and she lasts 29, up to the last spot, right? You could
You could
always throw
certainly
her
make a
into
pretty good impact with a
yeah.
long kind of debut
Then throw her
entrance in
into
there.
the elimination chamber with Becky, or what I'm saying, to find out the Raw's number one contender, and to have another impact. I don't know who Jade Cargill's opponent could be this year if she's having a WrestleMania match, but something Hunter said back when they first brought her in. They're not in any rush to, the right time is going to present itself for Jade. When that right time comes, she will be ready.
Mm-hmm. And that's one thing that Hunter, Paul Levesque himself, because he is a wrestler first. And so, I mean, he respects the wrestling business and he knew from the inside the things that could have been done better. But of course, even with his father-in-law being the owner of the company, his father-in-law was still going to still override anything, that may have been thrown his way if he didn't like it. And if he didn't understand it, even if, his son-in-law is explaining to him why it would work, of course, VKM is going to be going, I don't care. I'm going to do it my way
And he also
because
rushed a lot of feuds, which then didn't give time for reaction. And WWE, maybe we're not the smartest grade level, and we need to be dumbified a little bit, but we like to sit and ponder over stories a little bit, so let them take its time and develop its course. That's how you get a better response to it from the fans.
yep. And
Certainly.
yeah, and Triple H understands that. Vince McMahon would rush everything, especially like in the last few years. They've been really rushing things because they were doing pay-per-views every month. And so they said, okay, this month's storyline is this, instead of letting the things ride their way out for a very long time. Now we're getting to that, the long-term storytelling. And
One thing I wish they did rush a little bit, Kevin Owens and Logan Paul.
yeah, that was going to be, I don't want to see Logan Paul win it, but he just won the title. And
He's going through WrestleMania.
he's going to WrestleMania as the U.S. champion. And this is actually something kind of funny. Dwaylen texted me about this. And I got to read it verbatim. He said, U.S. title, Logan Paul. They've taken too big of a chance putting the title on him just to have him drop it in his first title defense. He's not Sasha Banks. Because
I have
remember,
not seen
Amen.
I've not seen a title drop so quickly though, because I'm sorry. I mean, yeah, Logan Paul's took in the U.S. title to social media, but he has been MIA worse than Roman Reigns ever since he's won it. And when he has made appearance, I don't think he like brings what the U.S. title represents. So for me, it's grinding teeth watching him carry this title because he's not holding it to its level of expectation, in my opinion.
I think he's better than what was expected. Well, of course, Logan Paul as a wrestler, period, is
Anything's
actually
better than what was what he
yeah,
expected was.
Certainly on that one. But he
yeah,
can certainly be around more too.
true. But BC says I'm picking Logan. He said I think they go with Logan and Knight at Mania. So I'm like, ooh, that's kind of intriguing.
Yeah.
You know, Logan Paul and LA Knight for the title at Mania, because LA Knight, people want to see LA Knight win some gold. Now
He needs to.
yeah, he needs to, because he is like the hottest thing since Sunburn right now, and they've been, pushing him at the world title. The fans want to see him with something, even though they'd prefer the world title. I think they'd be okay with him winning one of the secondary titles as long as he's got something around his waist.
Just throw him a bone.
Exactly. And I still like he's not Sasha Banks. Yeah, because remember Sasha Banks, every time she won a title, she'd lose it, like immediately in the very first title defense. Like she did that like what, 3 times? It's like, can she not defend a title?
I know at least the first couple times.
Yeah. And I was like, man, why do they keep doing that to her? But I think that match, because Logan Paul, I mean, he has proved himself in the ring. He does the work. I mean, he puts in, the training, and he actually respects the business. And could he be better? Probably. But him not defending the title, that's not just on him. That's on the WWE, creative team not putting him in there.
Did they put the title on him too early then? Because if they're trying to protect him, the title, what they're trying to do maybe towards Mania and whatnot, but maybe that led into maybe putting the title on him a bit early, because now you see Roman's title on SmackDown not being defended. Now you have the U.S. title not being defended. I don't know when the last time Io Sky defended her title. So SmackDown championships are kind of slacking because you don't have a tag team title on SmackDown right now.
The wild thing, Joel and I actually did an episode a couple years ago actually called "Why Isn't WWE Defending Their Titles?" So we kind of come back around. All of a sudden, they're doing it again. Where they're not defending their, they have champions, but they're like, well, look, I've held the title for 3 years. It's like, yeah, you've had 3 title defenses in that time too. It's easy to hold the title when you actually don't defend it. And I get they're protecting they don't want to have the title be hot potatoed, because that was a criticism in the past was, they were having some titles were just changing hands every single week. And the world title, the title that you don't want to have changing hands every single week, they were doing it with that. So I get they've gone the other extreme where they're just not defending the title. But then you have Gunther. Gunther, was not just sitting back, not defending it. Gunther beat Honky Tonk Man's record finally, thank God. But Gunther was defending the title almost every single week on Raw, and which is what a fighting. I like to see fighting champions. But Logan Paul, maybe he's not ready to do that week in and week out. So you're right. Maybe they did put it on him too early. I know some people they're perfectly fine with Logan Paul having the championship. I'm kind of still on the fence about it, because I think, yeah, he has put in his work, but there might be other people who are more deserving. There's people who are less deserving, for sure.
I mean, I know Ray needed surgery, but
Ray needed to drop the title.
Right.
I don't.
But my thing is that if with Logan Paul, you could get all this social media publicity between the beginning of the year, if he dropped it like the first week on SmackDown, to WrestleMania. I feel like that was a perfect timing, because now he could just go on this, like what he did at the beginning, where he went global with this and said, kind of rubbed it in everyone's face, hey, I'm this champion, I'm going to do all this stuff with it. Now it's kind of like, now you're just sitting back waiting for his opponent. Kevin Owens, yes, has a crack at it, but there's only going to be selected people that was going to work with Logan Paul because of, star power, workability, with a guy like him, because you're still relying on his opponent to almost carry him or guide him through the match, in a sense.
And Kevin Owens can do it. And Kevin Owens can go with just pretty much anybody, and he'll give you a good match. Kevin Owens, I like him because he looks like, well, us.
Yeah.
And he could put Logan Paul over.
Yeah, he could put Logan Paul over, and it would be like, okay, well, man, he beat Kevin Owens. Okay, and Kevin Owens has
Right.
never been, he's never shied away from doing business, but Kevin Owens, he's won just about every title there is to win as well. So he's a legit competitor. You know, he's a legit opponent if you want to have somebody that if you beat him, it actually means something. Um, I don't know if they're gonna. I think they're still trying to push Logan Paul. They're trying to give him more of a rub because he already has the title. Uh, but of course, that goes backwards to thinking you don't give a title to somebody to push them. You give them, you're already pushing them. You have them push the title because it makes the title legit, not the title making a wrestler legit. There's a fine balance there, and they got to figure out right now. They're trying to use the title to make Logan Paul more legit, because I think he is legit in the ring, because he's having the match he had with Roman Reigns over in Saudi Arabia was way, way above everybody's expectations. And he got hurt during the match. You didn't know it until the match was over, and they announced, by the way, middle of the match, he did that one, the John Moxley move is what I call it, but or whatever it's called, where he flipped himself in the ring with the clothesline.
Yeah.
And he actually hurt himself on that move. But yeah, he kept going. He didn't go, oh no, my shoulder. He just kept going, so hats off to him. He proved himself right then and there. It's not like a Johnny Knoxville. Couldn't stand seeing him in the ring wearing his long johns. Couldn't stand that. Some of the other celebrities,
Big oversized mousetrap.
yes. And, like, the only person I think even comes close to that is Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny was another one who surprised people in the ring. But there's been other celebrities who you're like, get out of my ring. I don't want to see you going over a wrestler who you obviously have not put in your homework. The only one, this was out of necessity also, who actually, I guess, won their match, but it was thrown together last second, was when Snoop Dogg, when he dropped the elbow on Miz. Right. But that was because,
which was hilarious.
It was hilarious because, well, Shane McMahon came out and blew out his knee, like just stepping in the ring, and they're like, uh-oh, what do we do now?
And the fact that WWE personnel had no clue what to do. They're all just
right.
duck sitting with,
So it was actually Snoop who decided, you know what, let me do this real quick. I'm not trying to make myself a wrestler, but we got to do something. And so Snoop, and even though I'm pretty sure he was probably high, because that's what Snoop does.
It's Snoop. He's always going to be high.
Yeah, he's always going to be high.
Have you guys seen the first images of WWE putting together the Rumble?
I have not.
I think they started yesterday. Okay. And the ring, I have
not seen those yet.
I saw a glimpse on Facebook, just like the bare bones of it. This is, I think, one thing that gets me is the longevity, the run down to the ring.
I wouldn't run. I would be walking.
Or what I'm saying, like how long it takes.
I'd be taking an Uber to the ring. I'm not going to run down that whole thing. You'd be seeing me getting out of the car, paying somebody money. All right, let's go.
Like, is that going to continue to happen this year? Like, this is such a long thing. I don't know. I'm over it. There are other ways. You know how. So, believe it or not, I think Taker was the one I saw this because WWE didn't care for hiding this, where half of the stage was lifted up, so that Taker didn't have the half of the walk. Like, it wasn't just him coming up from the ground; the actual stage lifted up so that he could get through. So. Is that something they consider, like, to shorten the ramp so that they're not walking?
You're going to have the ring in the middle of the field, the exact middle of the stadium. That way everybody has a good vantage point, because you're not going to necessarily build up, not for this one event. You're not going to do like Syracuse does in the Carrier Dome, where the Carrier Dome is where they have their football games. Also, it's where they have their basketball games. In a big football dome. And so they actually have like bleachers or whatever you want to call it, like seats that they will push in closer for the basketball games. I don't think that the Tampa Bay Stadium, I don't think they do that. because the Carrier Dome is like one of the only ones I know of that actually does do something like that. So the ring is going to be in the center of the field. Your dressing rooms are still going to be
The
one
locker
in
rooms, right?
locker rooms, whether it's on one side,
But
like the
then we've seen,
sidelines.
I've seen it where they've blacked out like a tarp, you know, where the underneath the behind the scenes stuff, it's blacked out, and you have the stage up closer. There's other ways around it.
Oh,
I mean,
maybe I don't know. Dwaylen can tell you because he was actually at the SummerSlam in Nashville a couple years ago. He even said though they had big sections where people were not sitting. He said there was a lot
right.
of empty seats in there. That was for SummerSlam, even though SummerSlam is supposed to be the WrestleMania of summer. I think more people like the Rumble. The Rumble is a lot more popular, so you're going to have more people there. Not only that, but it's Tampa in late January. It's going to be nice weather. It's not like up here in Southwest Ohio and Northern Kentucky where the weather is just absolute garbage outside right now. So people are going to go, they're more apt to go to Tampa during the wintertime to watch something like that. So I think you're going to have more people traveling, just like people really travel for WrestleMania. But yeah, as far as like the long ramp, that's kind of up to the wrestlers to decide whether or not they want to treat it as a track meet when they're coming out of the locker room, or if they want to do the slow walk, or, I was joking about obviously catching an Uber. Um, but,
You've done it.
but people, I mean, like Taker rode a motorcycle to the ring a couple times. You've had other people ride
Braun
vehicles.
Strowman took a golf cart down there.
Exactly. So, I mean, you could have that. And the wrestlers who are not necessarily known for their cardio, I could definitely see them doing that, going, hey, can you get me a vehicle? Just like the first time they did something like that I know of was at WrestleMania 3 because it was in the Silverdome. So they had these little bitty carts, which had the little bitty rings on them. They were made to look up like wrestling rings. That's what took them to the ring, usually. Like Andre, there's that iconic shot, it's of him leaving the ring after he lost, and the camera shots over and you see the ring in the background, but he's on this cart because what were you going to have somebody, Andre, with all his back issues, walk that far to the ring? You're not going to have it. So I don't see them shortening it up. I don't see how they can shorten it up because they have to start either that or they're bringing them up to like a gorilla position type thing, first and then saying, okay, go. Now that, I mean, I could honestly see it happening, but I don't think they're going to stop having the Rumble in stadiums. I don't think the WrestleMania, they're definitely not going to have WrestleMania not being a stadium because WrestleMania is just by itself is just huge. You're not going to have empty seats at a WrestleMania. But SummerSlam, I think they kind of jumped the gun putting it in a stadium.
Well, some of these things I don't want them in this. I mean, I don't want Royal Rumble not to be in a stadium. I feel like that's the perfect venue now. But there should be some. You think about by now, this is not the first year they're doing it. They could come up with something a lot easier, a lot better that just because we talked about this. You don't want them, doing their cardio on the way to the ring. Then now they're gassed,
Right.
so they can't do their 90-second of showdown. Plus, then it interferes with that whole 90 seconds point of view.
Human cannon, like Cannonball on the fair. Just launch them to the ring.
Good.
The only way you're going to get me to walk that far is if you have a cannoli down there at the ring for me to have afterwards.
And see, there's the Italian coming out right there. So, but
Cannoli and a nap. There you go.
so we've got all our predictions ready for the Rumble. This Saturday, I believe it's 8 o'clock Eastern time for the Rumble. We even have Dwayne's predictions. We have BC's predictions.
I don't know if I forgot it. Randy, did you also say Logan as well?
I don't think I got it
Actually,
in there,
yeah,
but
you're right.
That was my pick, actually.
My apologies. My bad.
It's okay. I could have interjected.
And I'm sorry because
I was actually on that one.
Logan.
So okay, and then the women's Rumble match.
I'm going Bailey.
Some names.
I think I'm leaning Bailey on that.
Bailey too. You guys got.
Yep.
I was able to convince you that Bailey worked.
It makes sense. I mean,
I think you sold me on it.
Yeah. Although I do like Dwaylen's logic, with Becky Lynch. I do like that. I don't see them giving it to Nia Jax. I mean, she'd be another logical one, but I don't see them giving it to her right now because, Nia
It's kind of tough getting behind her right
It
now.
is. It is because everybody knows her history. They know she's has a habit of hurting, like legitimately hurting people. So, um, but so we all have our predictions. Are you all ready to watch it on Saturday?
Absolutely.
I'm
I'm
actually
ready
going to
to
watch it. This is
take it
a,
in.
we said this earlier last week on the previous one about statistics of the Rumble, but WrestleMania season starts day one of the new year
Mm-hmm.
because it's the build up to Royal Rumble, which then leads into WrestleMania. And if you don't watch wrestling the rest of the year, this is the 3 months that you have to watch it, that you have to tune in for, because you just don't know. And I don't know about you guys, but the excitement that the Royal Rumble, it sets the tone for what we can expect at WrestleMania, and the hype, and for the first time in a few years, actually, there's actually so much excitement. At least I am feeling it on, all right, I want to see so many things happen. There's so many opportunities presenting itself that we can honestly see probably one of the better WrestleManias in the last couple of decades.
Oh, I can definitely see it. And by the way, one correction I do have to make from last week's episode when I was talking about the numbers. When I brought up the Excel spreadsheet, I'm not going to bring it up again, even though I have it sitting in front of me on my laptop. Because I was looking at going, there's some countries that are shown that I know are not being shown that are on there. I had another filter behind the scenes that I don't know why I originally had it on there because I hadn't touched that file in a couple of years. But in the men's rumble, at least, there have been 28 different countries, like for real, not just, oh, they're a wrestler from Russia and they're actually not Russian, like Nikita Koloff, he's from Minnesota. But I'm talking like legitimate countries, 28 different countries that have already been represented in Mania or in the Rumble. And there's going to be, if long as Grayson Waller and or Bronson Reed make it into the Rumble, that's going to add another one because there has not been one Australian male wrestler at the Rumble at all. There have been Australian females, obviously Rhea Ripley, but I just wanted to throw that out there, kind of a correction from last week because last week I said 22. I was like, ooh, no, I don't think that's right. Then I finally figured out what was going on. And it's 28 different countries, which I think is really cool because wrestling should be a worldwide, like very inclusive thing. So, but that's all I have for the Rumble, gentlemen, because we are definitely running out of some time here. This has been a great conversation. Thank you both for coming on. Really appreciate it. And hopefully, watch the Rumble Saturday. Everybody remember these predictions. Give us some feedback. Go check out TNC Sports Talk. Because every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 o'clock at night, right?
Right.
Yep. So, and by the way, this is the third podcast that Justin and I have recorded in the past 5 days. So, because I was actually on his podcast, was it Saturday, right? Or Sunday?
Yeah, Saturday.
Saturday. Yeah. So I was actually on his podcast. He interviewed me on that one. So go
Are
check
you posting
that out.
One up, by the way?
I shared a link to it.
I know you shared it, but I sent you an actual copy of it. Are you gonna?
I might. We'll have to see.
Okay.
So, but yeah, definitely go check that out. And Randy doesn't have a podcast. He could, because he is Rescue Randy. And
although I've been a little quiet today.
Yeah, Randy's been a little bit quiet today, but I normally see him, and the first thing I say to him is what it is. And so, Randy, this is not his first time on the show. Obviously, we've actually talked about that. I think we're going to have to start using another hand to actually count all the appearances he's had on the show. But Randy's always been able to help us out. He's always been a big fan, even sporting the armchair booking T-shirts at the NWF events, just to let people know, hey, go check it out. So big wrestling fan. Like I said, he's the one that introduced me to the NWF, and because of Randy, I've actually been able to, after I started the podcast, then I was able to pull a lot of NWF wrestlers, including the owner, onto the show, and that's been a lot of fun. So, if you know Randy, definitely thank him for that. If you don't know Randy, if he wants you to contact him, just get through me, and I'll tell you to email Randy at his email address, which I'll let Randy know first, obviously.
I'm not hard to find, though.
Randy's not hard to find. But in fact, tell you what you do is you go around Mount Orb and then you injure yourself and they call an ambulance. Randy might be the one to show up to help you. What do you think? Could be.
I mean, it's not the best way to meet me, but
not the best way to meet him.
It's not the way, but it's a way.
But it is a way. But like I said, I want to thank you so much for coming on. If you want to email the show, armchairbookingpodcast@gmail.com. Look it up on all the socials. On Twitter, it's actually at Booking Armchair. Facebook is at Armchair Booking, and TikTok, Instagram, all those at Armchair Booking. If you're watching this on YouTube, you may see the banners that go across the top. You'll definitely at least see it on the intro video and on the outro video. But thank you so much for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. We really appreciate it. To Justin and Randy, thank you so much for appearing once again. This is, multiple appearances for both of you. I really appreciate the support. And I know Dwaylen thanks you as well, because he's been very grateful that people have been able to step in his absence. And hopefully, we'll get him back on the show soon. But, in the meantime, he said, what, the show must go on. And so we haven't pushed it on, but we'll have to just see how things are going. So, we all wish Dwaylen the best of luck, and hopefully, prayers for him and his family. So, because we always say family comes first. And when you have a pregnant wife, that definitely has to kind of take priority. Justin, this from very recently.
Absolutely.
So, but all right, gentlemen.
Yes, indeed.
So thank you very much. Just got to say goodbye and God bless.